About. Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Very nice to be back in person. Today we're going to be learning Maseches Nedarim Daf Tzadi, and we're starting 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Last word on the line is Hahu. We'll be learning today on my Gemara on the bottom of Tzadi Amud Beis. There's like a 1 dot, 5 lines from the bottom after the words the Isnisa. We'll stop there, and then tomorrow night, Amir Tzashem, we'll have our final blot of Maseches Nedarim Baruch Hashem at the end of another Masechta, and we'll have a siyum sponsored by Yitz Brandis and cooking by Yitz Brandis. I don't know the details, but it's Yitz, so
it isn't meat chili.
I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried. Okay, so the Gemara opens Pei Testament base 5 lines from the bottom. Hu Gavra, there was a particular man, de Itzar Hanayasa de Alma Ale, that he had prohibited upon himself getting benefit from the world if Inasiv Itza Ki lo tinyana hilchasa, if he were to get married without having learned Shas Mishnayos first. That's what he said. He said, if I get married without having learned Shas Mishnayos, everything in the world is going to be usher to me. Rahit begapa vituvlina. So he ran with his stick and with his bag. It's just a colloquialism that he pushed very hard to try and finish the learning. Velo amtzi lemisna. He wasn't successful in completing all of the learning. So he's kind of stuck right now. He hasn't finished the learning yet. He wants to get married, can't get married, and now if he gets married, it's going to be a big problem because then he has Isser Hana. It's not good. So Asa Rav Acha bar Rav Huna, the Shabshe, the Insiv Itza. He did some kind of trickery, and he made sure that he ended up getting halachically married. Right after he got halachically married, the Sharkei Tina, top of Tzadi Amud Aleph, the Sharkei Tina, and he threw dirt on him. That's what the Mefaresh says here at the top, Rashi as well. The Ran as well, he threw dirt on him. And then the Shiloh was brought in front of Rav Chizda, and Rav Chizda was matir neder. Now, why did he throw dirt on him? Because he had he got married, but he had violated his condition. His condition of getting married was, I can only get married if I finished all of Shas. And if I get married without finishing all of Shas, so then, says the Gemara, then he would be Aser Behana. So now he's Aser Behana. He gets married, and now he needs someone to clean his clothes. He's not a launderer. He doesn't know how to clean clothes. So the case that was this backwards case, it turned out he actually needed some help from someone, but he's Aser Hana to everyone. They brought the case in front of Rav Chizda, and Rav Chizda was matir neder on this person. So now he was married, and his neder was uprooted. A little bit.
Ask the question in the first place.
What?
But being released from the neder is a hana.
Being released from the neder is a hana. Why is that a hana?
Because otherwise he can't live his life. It's like the definition of hana.
It's not the definition. I hear your question. I just don't think it's the definition of hana. I think your question is right. I didn't even think about that. First of all, it's a great point, but we've also had this 50 times in the Masech already, where they have an Isra Hana, they go to a Rav, they get. We've never established that as Hana. It's indirect Hana, but maybe are we saying that the reason why? Right.
No, but
the answer is for sure that it's not Hana. The question is, why is it not Hana? That's a great question you're asking. We all should have thought of it throughout the Masechta numerous times, but maybe in this case, he actually has an Isser Hana from everybody. And the Dayan, this is more poignant because the Isser Hana is on everyone, and Rav Chizda is one of the people that has an Isser Hana from. So L'chora, one of 2 answers: either that it's indirect, is that when I matir your neder, I'm not giving you Hana. My being matir you enables you later to have Hana. It's not really me giving you Hana, but it's indirect. And the second possibility is that the halachic piece is not Hana. You can ask shilas to people, and that's not Hana. I don't know, one of the two, something like that. But your question is great. Omar Rava says, "Wow, look how brilliant this move was by Rav Acha bar Rav Huna. Man chakim lemebad ki hamilsa. Who is so clever to come up with this ruse? Ilav, if it were not for the fact that it was the Rav Acha bar Rav Huna to Gabra Rabbahu, it must be that he is ever so great." The kasavar that he holds the ki heiche de pligi rabbanan v'rab nasan behafara. Just like when it comes to hafaras nedarim, that's when a husband would be made for his wife's neder. There by hafara, we have a machlokes Rab Nasan and the Chachamim. If a person can be matir a neder before a neder is employed. So here too, says the Gemara, maybe hachanami pligi b'shela. They have the same exact machlokes Rab Nasan and the Chachamim over here. That's why over here we have this case scenario where he forces him to get married, even though the condition wasn't in place yet. So we see that maybe the machlokes that we have by the world of hafara extends to the world of she'ela as well. That's shita of Rava. But Rav Papi Amar no. Machlokes behafara. There's only a machlokes from between Rav Nasan and the Chachamim by hafara, by a husband trying to undo his wife's neder. To Rav Nasan savar ein habal mefer, that elim kein chal haneder. That according to Rav Nasan, we don't have hafaras nedarim unless the neder has already been chal. D'chsiv v'chafra halavana. This is just a play on words. The chafra halavana, the word chafra is similar to hafara, and halavana is similar to the word binyan. And the Gemara says that the only way that the Baal can be mefer is if the neder is actually chal. That's why Rav Nasan holds that when it comes to a case of hafara, he says the husband has no role until there's chalos of the actual neder. Masha'en Kain, quarter of the way down, the Rabbanan Sabre, the rabbis were of the opinion that in regards to a case of a Baal being Mayfair, Afal Pisha Lochal Neder, that even if the Neder hasn't been Chal, the Chachamim hold that there can still be Hafara. How does this work? He says, based on the pasuk, Mayfair Machshavos Arumim. What do we see here? Mayfair, and it's even only Machshavos, even if the Nedarim aren't Chal yet. Afal Pikein, the Chachamim say that by Hafara, there is a machloka. So let's just be super clear here. The Gemara is trying to ask the following question. In regards to the world of hafara, in regards to a husband, a Baal being mefer, do we say that a husband can be mefer his wife's neder, even if the condition that has yet to kick in has kicked in, meaning the neder really isn't chal yet? Do we allow for hafara? Yes or no? Machlokes, Reb Nasan and the Chachamim. Rava wanted to extend this machlokes not only to the world of hafara, but even to the world of she'ela. However, comes along Rav Papi and says, no dice, doesn't work. Aval b'she'ela divrei hakol ein chachamatir klum ela im kein chal neder. But really, when it comes to the world of she'ela, we do not make a full comparison between the world of hafara and the world of she'ela. And when it comes to the world of she'ela, everyone agrees that a chacham, a rav, cannot be matir neder unless the neder is chal, tichsiv, because the pasuk says, lo yachel devaro, because your words have not been chal yet. It's a play on words, so your words have not been chal yet. So all of that is the machlokas between Rava and Rav Papi as to whether or not the machlokas by hafara between Rav Nasan and the Chachamim extends as well from the world of hafara to the world of she'ela, from the world of a Baal undoing his wife's neder to the world of she'ela of a regular person making a neder that has nothing to do with a wife whatsoever. Says the Gemara, maybe we have a raya for Shitas Rav Papi. Says the Gemara, a third of the way down, maybe we can use the following Mari Mekomos to support the Shita of Rav Papi. What are the two sources that we're going to see? Here's number one. Konam, a person makes a konam, they make a commitment, she'eni nehen leploni, that they say, I'm never going to benefit from someone. Ulemi she'eshal alav, and for the person who I'm going to get hataras nedarim from. So first I have to be Mekabel the neder on myself, right? That I'm never going to benefit from Ruvain. And then I'm even from the person I'm going to be sholan on a neder. So what's the din of the brisa? Nishal al harishon ve'achar kach nishal al hasheni. You have to go in order. You first have to go and do she'ela on the neder of not being naneh from Ploni, and afterwards you have to do she'ela on the posek where you're trying to be mater neder. So the Gemara tries to bring a raya from here, halfway down on Sadi Amadala. V'amris nishal afal pishalochal neder. If you want to say like the sheet of the Chachamim, that even if a she'ela, that a she'ela can work even though the neder isn't chal, so why does this brisa have to say a specific order of she'ela, going first to the dayan about the neder between me and Ruvain, and only second about the neder between me and the dayan? Says the Gemara, "V'yamris nishal afal pishlochal neder iboy al haynis shal beresha and iboy al haynis shal beresha." There should be no reason that we have to be in such a specific order. If what you're saying is that we can be made for a neder, even the one that's not chal, maybe I should start by saying I'm going to be shoal on the neder about not having the neder being shoal. So says the Gemara, that's not a good argument as a raya for the shita of Rav Papi, because umi yoda, how do we know ihai kama, ihai basra? We don't know the order of events that actually took place in the Mishnah. Maybe the Mishnah was lav dafka, and therefore there's no raya for the shita of Rav Papi. And the Gemara says, Ella, perhaps we have another Mari Mokum that's supportive of the sheet of Rav Papi. Ella lema misayele, maybe the following brisa supports the sheet of Rav Papi. Remember that the sheet of Rav Papi is that just like by the world of Hafara, we have not just like. The sheet of Rav Papi is that by the world of Hafara, we have a machlokas between Rav Nasan and the Chachamim. as to whether or not hafaras nedarim can happen before the neder is actually chal. And Rav Papi wants to say that by she'ela we have no such precedent, and when it comes to she'ela, the neder must be chal before she'ela is actually done. So the Gemara says, 8 lines from the bottom, 9 lines from the bottom, lema mesayele. Maybe we have the following raya for the sheet of Rav Papi. Konam she'eni nehene leploni, and hareni nazir, lechem eshal alav. So this is what he says. Number one, he says, I'm not going to benefit from someone. And he says, I'm also going to be a nazir when I'm shoal on the neder from that previous case. This case is more explicit than the last one. So what's the din in the brisa? Nishal al nidro ve'achar kach nishal al nizro. Here we know what each she'ela is in the brisa. The first one's on his neder, and the second one is on his nizirus. And the Gemara asks a similar logic that tries to support the sheet of Rav Papi as follows. V'yamris nishal afal pi shaloch al neder. If you want to be of the opinion, like Rav Papi seems to say, that you can be shoal on a neder even if the neder is not totally chal, iboi al nidro is shal beresha. Iboi al nidro is shal beresha. Maybe says the Gemara that we should be able to reverse the order. The nizirus, which has yet to be chal, maybe I should be able to make a she'ela on that. But says the Gemara, not necessarily, because it's possible that this brisa is simply rib nasanhi and therefore not a raya. Now, all of this was under the assumption that Rav Papi's opinion was, as we stated, that even though by hafara we have a machlokas, Rav Nasan and the Chachamim, as to whether or not a neder can be, whether or not hafara can happen when the neder hasn't been chal yet, and by she'ela he would say that there is no machlokas. However, the Gemara says 4 lines from the bottom that Ravina had a different understanding of Rav Papi. What does he say that Rav Papi said? Amar Ravina, Amar li Meremar, Hachi Amar Avuch Mishmei de Rav Papi. He says to Meremar, your father taught me a different way to understand Rav Papi. Machlokes behafara. Yes, you're right, the machlokes is behafara. But b'sheila divrei akol mefer. V'afal pi shelo chal neder. This is the opposite, right? Our initial impression of Rav Papi was that when it comes to the world of sheila, everyone agrees you cannot be shoal on a neder unless the neder has been chal. But here, it's the exact opposite, that everyone agrees that you can be mefer a neder, even though the neder hasn't been chal. And what's the pasuk that he brings? Lo yachel, dichsiv, lo yachel divaro. And what does this pasuk come to teach us? Turning to the top of Tzadi Amud Beis, it comes to teach us, lememra, delo haba b'maisa. This is an exact opposite learning of the pasuk of lo yachel divaro that we had from 20 lines ago, which makes the Gemara difficult. This Gemara requires a lot of time to parse out and really understand each shita very, very clearly. In short, right now, we're trying to just understand what Rav Papi actually said. Rav Papi agrees that the machlokas by hafara doesn't apply by she'ela. The only question is by she'ela, are we totally mekil in regards to being shoal on a neder before it's chal, or are we not? So in this version of Rav Papi is being quoted by Ravina as having said that when it comes to she'ela, not hafara, when it comes to she'ela, there in such a case, a person is allowed to be shoal on a neder, even if the neder has not been chal. And the Gemara, which on the previous page used these 2 sources to support the shita of Ravina, is now going to be using them as questions on Ravina because we flipped Ravina's shita. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, top line of Tzadi Amud Beis, Konam she'eni nehene leploni. A person makes a neder, I'm not going to benefit from Ruvain. And then ulemisha nishal alav, and he's also not going to benefit from the person who he's going to be shoal the neder. So says the Gemara, nishal al harishon ve'achar kach nishal al hasheni. This brisa is the same brisa we saw before, and instead of bringing it as a proof for version 1 of Rav Papi, it's being brought as a question in version 2 of Rav Papi. And the Gemara asks the same exact question. Why would we say that the order has to be al harishon first and al hasheni second? Ibai, according to what you're saying, Rav Papi, that really no matter what you can be shoal on a neder, even if the neder isn't chal. Ibai al hainis shal beresha, and ibai al hainis shal beresha. So the Gemara says that should be a kasha in the shita of Rav Papi, and the Gemara responds, no, not a problem. Mi yodea hay rishon v'hay sheni. We don't know which one is which because this brisa, when it says al harishon ve'achar kach al hasheni, we don't really know which one is referring to which. So it's not really a kasha against version 2 of Rav Papi. So the Gemara therefore goes to one final question, and that will bring us to the next Mishnah and to the final Mishnah of the Perek and of the Masechta. Meisvei, the Gemara says, Konam she'eni nehene. A person first says, I hereby make a commitment that I will not get any benefit from someone, and then he says, V'hareni nazir l'cheshe'esh alav. So then he says, and also I'll become a Nazir when I'm shoal on the first neder. There, that brisa is very clear about the sequence of events. First, if you want to be shoal, it's nishal al nidro. First, you have to be shoal on the neder that you made. Ve'achar kach nishal al nidro. So says the Gemara, why does it have to be in this specific order? Iboi al nidro nishal beresha. Ve'iboi al nidro nishal beresha. See, this brisa is super clear, and this brisa indicates to us that the flow of events is very particular. But if version number 2 of Rav Papi is correct, there should be no difference which one we do first. And to this, the Gemara says, Tiyuvta. This rejects version number 2 of Rav Papi, which was brought to us by Ravina, and that therefore concludes as follows. We saw a machlokas between Rava and Rav Papi. I'll just summarize with this, and then we'll go to the next Mishnah. We saw a machlokas in the Gemara on the top of Pei of Tzadi Amud Aleph, a machlokas between Rava and Rav Papi. Rava was of the opinion that let's say that a woman makes a neder and the neder has yet to be chal. Machlokas Rav Nasan and the Chachamim as to whether or not we can be mefer her neder. Rava wanted to say that just like there's a machlokas Rav Nasan and the Chachamim by hafara, there's also a machlokas Rav Nasan and the Chachamim by she'elim. Rav Papi did not agree with that at all. Rav Papi felt that hafara is hafara, and the machlokas Rav Nasan and the Chachamim is only over there. And by she'ela, there's 2 versions of Rav Papi. Version number 1 of Rav Papi is that, of course, you have to wait for the neder to be chal by she'ela. And version number 2 of Rav Papi is that, of course, you don't have to wait for the neder to be chal in order to be shoal on a neder. And we just rejected version number 2. And therefore, what we conclude now is that the version of Rav Papi that's accurate is that by hafar there's a machlokas Rav Nasan and the Chachamim, but by she'ela he holds that by she'ela you are not allowed to be mefer, you are not allowed to be shoal on a neder unless that neder has already been chal. Let's say we pasken like Rav Papi halacha l'maisa. So if I make a neder that if something is going to be true, if only I do X, then the condition that I've made limits me from being able to be shoal on the neder. I can't be shoal on a neder until the neder is in full effect. Otherwise, it's not a neder yet. And that is what Rav Papi holds. That brings us to the final Mishnah of the parak, a third of the way down on Tzadi Amud Beis. And of the Maseches. So glad you're listening. Yeah, it's true. Okay. This Mishnah says as follows. Barishona, initially, always code word for we're about to change things, but Barishona, initially, it used to be the case, Hayu Omrim, Shalosh Nashim Yotzos Venotlos Ksuba. There are 3 women that with particular claims, they could get out of their marriage and they could collect their ksuba. Here's number 1. Ha'omeres Tmea Anilach, a woman who says, I'm Tmea to you, not Hilchos Nida Tmea, but she slept with someone, and it's Asr L'Baal, Asr L'Boel. She slept with someone that now forbids her to sleep with her husband again. She can leave the marriage and even get her ksuba. So we'll see in a minute what's going on with this. Number 2, Shamayim Beini Levenecha. We've seen this before. She says something that's kind of a code word. She says, heaven knows what's going on between me and you. And the Mefarshim here explain explicitly, if you look at the Mefarish, halfway down on the page, Dibur HaMaschal HaShamayim B'ni Levenecha, She'eno Mazriya. He is not Mazriya, and according to some, he's not Mazriya Kechetz, that during intercourse, when there is Zera, it doesn't project into the body, and she's not able to conceive. So if she says, Shamayim B'ni Levenecha, that's also grounds for divorce. However, she gets her ksuba still. Or if she says, Unatula Ani Min HaYehudim, or if she says, I am hereby forbidden in Tashma Shamita to all Jews, that too, because Tashma Shamita is very painful for her. So if any of these 3 things happen, so she's allowed to be Yosos below ksuba. Yosos with her ksuba. She gets divorced and she gets her ksuba. However, the Chachamim were very concerned about this because these claims could effectively function as a get out of jail free card where a woman could manipulate the situation. And they didn't like that. It wasn't a good setup. So Chazru Lomar, they went back and they changed it. They had to change the rules because they didn't want it to be that a husband and wife get in a big fight, and now he's sleeping on the couch and she drops one of these halachic bombs and says something and just gets out of the marriage. They didn't want that to happen. Therefore, if a woman says that she cheated, she slept with someone, Tavi Raya. She has to bring a raya l'dvareh. She has to bring a proof. If she brings a proof, then taka, she'd be able to be yotzos with her ksuba. If she says Hashamayim Beini Levenecha, ye'asu derech bakasha. So according to the Mefarshim here, if you look at the Mefarish halfway down, The Mefarish writes, "Dibra Maschal Yasu Derech Bakasha Yivakshu Heimena Shif Terena Beget Karoi Ve'en Machrichin Oso." She said, "I understand if he's not being Yora Kechetz, if he's not able to have Tashma Shemit in a way that she can conceive, so she has to just ask her husband to divorce her instead of forcing his hand." And lastly, Unatula Ani Min HaYehudim, if a woman says that she is restricting herself from Tashma Shemita for everyone, Yafer Lechelko, that he can undo on his own. We've learned about that already. She's not allowed to make a neder like that. And they're allowed to be together. But she's never allowed to be intimate with any other man, even after they get divorced. And the Gemara asks one quick question, and we'll be stopping again in 5 or 6 lines from here. The Gemara says 2/3 of the way down at the open of the Gemara on Sad Yamid Beis, a question was asked in the Beis Medrash. Amr labayla, if a woman says Tmea Ani, a woman says I've slept with somebody else, Asr labal, Asr laboel. So once that claim is made, Ma'u shetochal b'truma. Let's say that she's an Eishes Kohen. So now she's dropped the bomb already that they have to get divorced, but they're not divorced yet. So is she allowed to eat truma? This is a machlokas amurai. Rav Sheshes Amar ocheles shelo totzi laz al boneha. She should still continue to eat the truma, no problem at all, because by her not eating the truma, people will notice, and if they see that she's not eating the truma, they will then assume that if she's not eating truma, maybe the child she's holding in her lap is really fathered by somebody else, and the reason why she's not eating truma is because she cheated. So we don't want to have any laws on the children. So we say that she's allowed to still eat truma until they're actually divorced. Rava Amar, no, Eina Ochelas. There's no reason why she should be eating truma because Efshar de'achla chulin. It's just easier. Getting truma is much more complicated, way more complicated. You can only eat it b'tara, but you can go to the store and buy the same exact food that isn't truma, and no one will be the wiser. Who cares? So says the Gemara in the name of Rava. Efshar de'achla chulin, no one will know the difference. And Omar Rabba, he says, Umoder Rav Sheshes even agrees with me, she'imnis armela, that if she becomes widowed, then she'eno chelas. There, at that point, once the husband dies, then she's no longer able to eat it. Midihu taima elamishum totzi laz al baneha. The only concern that we had was about rumors that might make her children look bad. But nis armela v'nis karsha. But if she were to have become widowed or gotten divorced, amrei hashta deisni isnisa, and she had said that she slept with someone. Maybe she slept with someone after she got divorced. Still, an isur deraisa to sleep with someone, but at least it's not eshes ish. Now you're single again. And therefore, according to Rava, Rav Sheshes would even agree in a case of nis armela or nis karsha that she would not be allowed to eat the truma at that point. We'll pick up continuing this sugya tomorrow for the final blot of the Masechta. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
About why she would be